Imagine this. You walk into a grocery store in the middle of suburban America. On your left, you see shiny apples stacked neatly under a bright label that says organic. On your right, nearly identical apples, same color, same shine, without the green and white label, and at almost half the price. And right there, the silent debate begins in your head. Is paying extra really worth it? Are those organically grown apples truly better for my health, my family, and even the planet? Or is this just another marketing trick? Today, we're diving deep, really deep, into one of the most debated topics in modern health and nutrition. This isn't just about fruits and vegetables. It's about our trust in food, our connection with nature, and the choices we make every single day at the grocery store, farmer's market, or even when scrolling through online delivery apps. Stay with me, because over the next couple of hours, we'll journey through history, science, nutrition, and real-life stories that will help you finally decide, is the organic movement a true path to healthier living? Or is it an expensive illusion that plays on our fears? Before we start, let me make a promise. By the end of this series, you won't just know the facts, you'll feel confident about your choices. Whether you decide to fill your cart with organic kale or regular carrots, you'll be doing it with clarity, not confusion. To understand this modern obsession with chemical-free food, we need to rewind the clock. Long before supermarkets, before refrigerators, before fast food chains, farming looked very different. Picture a small American farm in the early 1900s. A family grows wheat, corn, and vegetables. They raise a few chickens and maybe a cow for milk. Pesticides? Hardly. Fertilizers? Mostly compost, animal manure, and good old-fashioned crop rotation. Food wasn't labeled organic. It simply was. But as the US industrialized, especially after World War II, farming transformed. Synthetic fertilizers and pesticides became the backbone of modern agriculture. Yields skyrocketed. Produce looked bigger, lasted longer, and fed a rapidly growing population. On paper, it was a triumph. Yet somewhere in the shadows, questions began to emerge. Could these chemicals affect soil health? Could residues end up in our bodies? Could farming practices focused solely on efficiency damage the very land we depend on? By the 1960s and 70s, a counter-movement was born. Americans, especially in states like California, Oregon, and Vermont, started pushing back. They wanted food grown in harmony with the earth, without synthetic chemicals. The term organic farming became their rallying cry. Fast forward to today, and that once small grassroots movement has exploded into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Walk into any Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, or even Walmart, and you'll see entire sections devoted to foods with the USDA organic seal. But here's the twist. With that explosive growth came new controversies. What exactly does that little green seal guarantee? Is organic farming always healthier, or have corporations hijacked the movement to cash in on consumer trust? Let us cut through the buzzwords and look at the real difference between organic and conventional. In the United States, for a product to carry the USDA organic label, it must follow strict rules. Farmers can't use synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. They can't plant genetically modified seeds. Animals must be raised without routine antibiotics or growth hormones. And farming practices are supposed to support soil and environmental health. Sounds great, right? But here's the catch. Organic doesn't mean zero pesticides. Farmers can still use certain natural pesticides and fertilizers. Think neem oil, copper sulfate, or manure-based compost. And just because it's natural doesn't always mean it's 100% harmless. Still, studies show that organic produce often contains significantly lower pesticide residues than conventional produce. That's one of the biggest reasons people in the US make the switch, especially parents buying for their kids. But here's the million-dollar question. Do those lower residues actually translate into better health outcomes? Or is it more of a psychological comfort than a measurable benefit? That's where the science comes in. And trust me, we're going to dig into it. Let's talk about what's inside the food itself. Because at the end of the day, whether it's an apple, a carrot, or a carton of milk, we want to know, does it nourish me better if it's organic? Some large-scale studies have compared nutrient levels in organic versus conventional crops. The findings, mixed. On one hand, most vitamins and minerals, like vitamin C, potassium, and calcium, don't show dramatic differences. An organic strawberry and a conventional one might give you roughly the same vitamin C. But on the other hand, some evidence suggests organic produce contains higher levels of certain antioxidants, especially polyphenols. These compounds help fight inflammation and oxidative stress, two root causes of chronic diseases like heart disease and cancer. When it comes to dairy and meat, the story gets even more interesting. Organic milk, for example, has been found to contain higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, the same heart-healthy fats found in salmon and walnuts. Organic meat also tends to have a more favorable fat profile compared to conventionally raised livestock. So while it might not be a vitamin revolution, there are subtle nutritional edges that add up over time. Think of it less like a miracle cure and more like a steady nudge toward healthier living. Quick recap before we dive deeper. So far, we've uncovered a few big ideas. Historically, all food used to be what we now call organic. The organic movement arose as a response to industrial farming and chemical dependence. The USDA organic seal comes with strict guidelines, but doesn't mean chemical-free. Nutritionally, the differences aren't night and day, but there are potential benefits in antioxidants and healthy fats. But we're just getting started. In the next part, we'll look at the proven health benefits, what real science says about eating this way, and then we'll connect it to everyday American life, from what EC in your child EC lunchbox to what ECs in your weekend backyard barbecue. Stay with me, because things are about to get really interesting. Let's step into the heart of the matter. We've all heard the promises. Eating organic keeps us safer, helps us live longer, maybe even protects us from cancer. But is this backed by science, or is it just clever marketing designed to make us feel better about that higher grocery bill? Researchers across the US and around the globe have been trying to answer this question for decades. One of the most comprehensive analyses came from a massive review published in Annals of Internal Medicine. After comparing hundreds of studies, the conclusion was sobering. There wasn't strong evidence that organic foods are much more nutritious. But nutrition isn't the whole story. Here's where things get intriguing. While vitamins and minerals might be similar, exposure to pesticide residues is consistently lower among people who eat organic. In fact, studies measuring urine samples show a dramatic reduction in pesticide breakdown products among organic eaters compared to conventional eaters. Why does this matter? Well, while regulatory agencies in the US, like the EPA, set safe levels for pesticide residues, critics argue that these levels don't always account for long-term exposure, especially in children whose bodies are still developing. So when parents buy organic applesauce for their toddlers, they're not just paying for nutrients, they're paying for peace of mind. But here's the nuance. Avoiding pesticides doesn't necessarily mean guaranteed health benefits. The scientific jury is still out on whether organic diets translate to fewer chronic diseases. Some observational studies suggest lower rates of obesity, allergies, and even certain cancers among frequent organic consumers. But cause and effect hasn't been fully established. Still, for many Americans, that small potential edge is worth it. Because when it comes to health, sometimes the absence of risk feels as important as the presence of benefit. Let's zoom into daily life in the US. Picture a busy family in Chicago. Mom works long shifts at the hospital, Dad juggles remote work and school pickups, and two kids are constantly hungry between soccer practice and homework. Their grocery cart has to stretch across convenience, health, and budget. Now here's where organic decisions hit home. The Environmental Working Group, better known as the EWG, publishes an annual list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. These lists rank produce by pesticide residue levels. Apples, strawberries, and spinach often land on the Dirty Dozen, while avocados and sweet corn usually make the Clean 15. So this Chicago family might decide, let us spend a little extra on organic strawberries for the kids, but buy regular avocados and onions. It's a middle ground, healthier choices without breaking the bank. And this isn't just a city thing. Across suburban and rural America, from Texas ranch towns to New England villages, families are making similar trade-offs. Organic isn't always an all-or-nothing choice. It's a balancing act between health values, household budgets, and lifestyle realities. Let's step outside the kitchen for a moment, because this story isn't just about what lands on our plate. It is also about the land itself. Organic farming practices are designed with the environment in mind: crop rotation to keep soil fertile, composting instead of chemical fertilizers, and encouraging biodiversity by avoiding heavy chemical sprays. Soil health is a big deal here. Healthy soil doesn't just grow food, it stores carbon, supports pollinators, and reduces erosion. Think of it as the foundation of sustainable living. And there is always a but. Organic farming tends to produce lower yields per acre compared to conventional farming. That means more land might be needed to produce the same amount of food. Critics argue this could actually harm the environment if scaled irresponsibly. It's a classic American dilemma: efficiency versus sustainability. Do we prioritize feeding the maximum number of people with fewer resources, or do we slow down, nurture the earth, and hope that long-term resilience outweighs short-term output? There's no easy answer, but it's a question worth asking every time we see that green USDA organic seal. When most people think organic, they think produce aisles. But in the US, the organic wave has spread far beyond apples and lettuce. Take skincare. Walk through a Target or Sephora, and you'll see creams, shampoos, and lotions stamped with organic ingredients. The appeal: fewer synthetic chemicals touching your skin, fewer potential irritants, and a feeling of purity or home remedies. Many American households, especially in wellness-focused states like California and Colorado, stock organic teas, essential oils, and herbal supplements. Some people swear by organic ginger tea for digestion, organic honey for sore throats, or even organic coconut oil as a natural moisturizer. And let's not forget beverages. Organic coffee, organic wine, even organic craft beer have gained serious popularity, because for many, it is not just about what they eat. It is about aligning every part of life with a sense of mindful, cleaner consumption. This expansion shows us something powerful. The organic movement isn't just a diet. It has become a lifestyle statement, almost like saying, I care about my health, my environment, and my choices. Here's where things get practical. If you're watching this in the US and wondering, how do I actually use this information? Let's break it down into simple, everyday steps. Prioritize high-residue foods. If you're on a budget, consider buying organic versions of produce that tend to carry the most pesticide residues. Think strawberries, spinach, apples. Don't stress about everything. For foods with thick skins or husks, like avocados, bananas, or sweet corn, conventional versions are often just fine. Think balance, not perfection. A mix of organic and conventional foods can still be incredibly healthy. What matters most is eating plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole foods in general. Timing matters too. Organic berries for your kids' snacks might give you peace of mind, while conventional potatoes for a hearty stew could be a smart budget saver. And here is a tip most people don't realize: washing and peeling fruits and vegetables, whether organic or not, can reduce residue significantly. So sometimes the simplest habits are the most effective. Wait, risks? Isn't organic supposed to be the safe option? Here's where it gets interesting. While organic foods generally lower exposure to synthetic chemicals, they aren't completely risk-free. Natural pesticides aren't always harmless. Substances like copper sulfate used in organic farming can build up in soil and cause toxicity in high amounts. Bacterial contamination. Because organic farming often uses natural fertilizers like manure, there's a slightly higher risk of bacterial contamination if crops aren't handled properly. Higher prices. Limited access. For many American families, the biggest side effect of organic is financial stress. Paying 30–50% more for groceries can push healthy eating out of reach for low-income households. So while organic can be beneficial, it's not a magical shield. Like everything else in nutrition, it's about understanding trade-offs and making informed choices. Quick recap. Before moving forward, we've covered a lot, so let's pause and tie things together. Science shows organic foods lower pesticide exposure, though nutrient differences are modest. Families often use the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 as guides for smart shopping. Environmental benefits exist, but come with trade-offs in yield and land use. Organic living has expanded beyond food into skincare, remedies, and even beverages. Risks are low, but not non-existent. Cost and access remain real barriers. Next, we're going to dive into who should avoid or limit organics, surprising comparisons with other diets and food systems, and real-life stories from across America. Now, here's a surprising twist. You might think everyone should buy organic all the time, but actually, that's not the case. Certain groups of people need to be careful, not necessarily about organic foods themselves, but about how they approach them. Seniors on fixed incomes. For older adults in the U.S., especially those living on retirement savings or Social Security, organic prices can be overwhelming. Choosing organic across the board may not be financially sustainable, and stressing about it could outweigh the small health benefits. Pregnant women. While many mums-to-be lean toward organic to avoid pesticide exposure, experts caution that the worst thing is to skip fruits and vegetables altogether just because organic options are too expensive. Eating plenty of produce, organic or not, is far more important for both mum and baby. People with food allergies. Some organic products contain natural ingredients that can still trigger allergies. For example, an organic soy snack is still soy. A USDA seal doesn't make it hypoallergenic. Those with weakened immune systems, because organic produce may be fertilized with manure. There's a small but real risk of bacterial contamination if it isn't washed properly. For people undergoing chemotherapy or with immune deficiencies, extra caution is needed. The key takeaway? Organic is a tool, not a requirement. And sometimes trying to chase perfect can cause more stress than benefit. Now let's compare. Because in America, organic isn't the only buzzword competing for your grocery dollar. Non-GMO. Many shoppers confuse organic with non-GMO. While all organic foods must be non-GMO, not all non-GMO foods are organic. Non-GMO just means the seeds weren't genetically modified. It doesn't say anything about pesticide use. Local food. Farmers' markets across the US are booming, and many shoppers prefer local over organic. Why? Because freshness often matters more than certification. A tomato picked yesterday at a nearby farm may pack more flavor and nutrients than an organic tomato shipped from Mexico 2 weeks ago. Regenerative agriculture. This is the new kid on the block. It focuses on soil health, carbon capture, and biodiversity. Some experts argue regenerative farming might actually outpace organic in terms of environmental impact. Plant-based movement. Here is an interesting thought. Whether a food is organic or not may matter less than what type of food it is. A conventional apple is still healthier than an organic cookie. Prioritizing whole, plant-based foods in general may deliver far greater health benefits than obsessing over labels. So, when we compare, it becomes clear. Organic is just one piece of a much larger puzzle in the American food system. To add more credibility, let's channel the voices of nutritionists and doctors across the US. Dr. Marion Nestle, a leading food policy expert, often emphasizes that the biggest benefit of organic is environmental. For human health, she says, the differences are modest, but peace of mind can be valuable. Pediatricians from the American Academy of Pediatrics have stated, organic foods reduce exposure to pesticides, which may be especially important for children. But they also emphasize, don't let cost keep you from feeding kids plenty of fruits and vegetables, conventional or not. Dietitians often remind clients the healthiest diet is one that's consistent and balanced. A mix of organic spinach and regular carrots is still far healthier than skipping veggies in favor of fast food. These expert views highlight a recurring theme. Organic isn't a magic bullet, but it can be a meaningful choice depending on your values, budget, and priorities. Here's where the conversation gets truly powerful. Because in America today, chronic diseases like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease are the real killers, and diet plays a massive role. The organic label itself won't protect you from these conditions. But here's the indirect benefit. People who buy organic often also adopt healthier habits overall. They cook more at home, eat more whole foods, and pay closer attention to what's on their plate. And those lifestyle choices, eating fresh produce daily, cooking instead of ordering takeout, reducing highly processed foods, are the real game changers for long-term health. In other words, buying organic might act like a gateway to healthier living. Think about it. When you spend $5 on a box of organic spinach, you're more likely to actually use it, to cook it, to value it. And that, over years and decades, can mean lower risk of chronic disease, healthier weight, and even a longer lifespan. Let's bring this to life with some real, relatable stories. Karen, from Austin, Texas, a mum of 3, Karen started buying organic strawberries after reading about pesticide residues. At first, it felt like a luxury, but soon she noticed she was also cooking more meals at home and swapping soda for flavored water. The shift toward organic nudged her entire household toward a healthier routine. James from Ohio, a retired factory worker, James loves gardening. He can't afford to buy everything organic, but he grows his own tomatoes, cucumbers, and herbs without chemicals. For him, the joy isn't just in eating, it's in reconnecting with the soil and teaching his grandkids where food comes from. Samantha in New York City, a young professional with limited space, Samantha shops at the local farmers market every weekend. For her, organic isn't just about health, it's about supporting small farmers, reducing her environmental footprint, and feeling part of a community. These stories show us that the organic choice looks different across America. For some, it's about children's health. For others, it's about connection to nature or community. And for many, it's about peace of mind. Quick recap before the next chapter. Here's where we stand now. Not everyone needs to go fully organic. Context matters. Organic competes with other food movements like local, non-GMO, and regenerative. Experts emphasize that the biggest benefits may be environmental and psychological. The real long-term advantage comes when organic habits encourage broader, healthy living. Everyday Americans approach organic in very different and very personal ways. Next, we'll dive into money matters. Is organic worth the price difference? And we'll explore surprising myths and misconceptions that still confuse millions of Americans. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the grocery aisle, cost. We all know organic comes with a higher price tag. Sometimes it's just a few cents more, but in many cases it can be 30, 40, even 100% more than conventional. Take milk, for example. A gallon of regular milk in many U.S. supermarkets might run around $3.50. Organic? closer to $6 or $7. That's almost double. So the big question, is it worth it? For many American families, food budgets are already stretched thin. According to USDA data, the average US household spends about 10 to 12% of their income on food. For lower-income households, that number is much higher. This means organic purchases often come with trade-offs. Do we buy organic apples, or do we use that money for an extra pack of chicken breasts? Do we spend more on groceries, or save for college, rent, or medical bills? And here's the truth. Nutrition experts consistently emphasize that eating more fruits and vegetables of any kind is the priority. If going organic means you can only afford half as much produce, you're losing out. That's why many dietitians recommend a hybrid approach. Buy organic where it matters most, like the Dirty Dozen, and stick with conventional for everything else. It's a compromise that gives you health benefits without financial strain. The world of organic food is packed with myths. Let's break down some of the most common misconceptions floating around the US today. Myth number 1, organic means no pesticides. False. Organic farmers can and do use pesticides, but they're derived from natural sources. Some are safer, but not all are risk-free. Myth number 2, organic food is always healthier. Not necessarily. Nutritional differences are subtle. An organic cookie is still a cookie, loaded with sugar and fat. Myth number 3. Organic food is safer from bacteria. Actually, the opposite can sometimes be true. Because natural fertilizers like manure are used, there's a slightly higher chance of contamination if produce isn't washed thoroughly. Myth number 4. Organic means local. Nope. Organic bananas could be shipped all the way from South America. Local food may be fresher, even if it isn't organic. Myth number 5. Organic guarantees better animal welfare. Not always. Organic certification does require animals to have outdoor access and prohibits routine antibiotics, but better welfare can vary depending on the farm. These myths matter because they shape consumer trust. And in a market where prices are higher, trust is everything. Let's shift gears for a moment, because beyond nutrition and farming practices, there's a fascinating psychological layer here. Studies show that people often experience what's called the health halo effect with organic foods. If something is labeled organic, Americans tend to assume it's lower in calories, more nutritious, and even better tasting, even when it's identical to conventional. In one experiment, researchers gave participants 2 identical samples of yogurt, one labeled organic, one not. People consistently rated the organic yogurt as healthier and more flavorful, even though it was the same product. This placebo-like effect isn't necessarily bad. If believing that organic food is healthier motivates people to eat more produce, then it's a win. But it can also lead to overconfidence, like assuming organic cookies or chips are guilt-free snacks. The mind is powerful, and in the US, where marketing is everywhere, labels shape not just what we eat, but how we feel about what we eat. Here's something deeper. In the US, food is never just food. It's tied to culture, politics, and identity. Choosing organic can feel like making a statement. For some, it's about health and wellness. For others, it's about environmental activism. For others still, it's about social status, organic as a symbol of affluence. Walk into a Whole Foods in Los Angeles, and organic produce is almost a lifestyle accessory. Visit a farmer's market in Vermont, and it's a way of sustaining local traditions. Go to a Walmart in rural Kansas, and organic might simply mean giving your kids fewer chemicals. The motivations are as diverse as the country itself. And that's why the conversation about organic food in America can get so heated, because it touches on more than science. It touches on values. We can't ignore the corporate side of this story. When organic first took off, it was grassroots. Small farmers, counterculture movements, hippies in California, but today, organic is big business. Companies like General Mills, PepsiCo, and even Walmart are major players in the organic market. On one hand, this has made organic more accessible. You can now find organic products at Costco, Target, and even dollar stores in some areas. On the other hand, it raises questions. Has the movement lost its soul? Is organic just another corporate profit machine, detached from the original spirit of sustainability and purity? Some critics argue yes. They point to cases where large-scale organic farms look almost identical to conventional industrial farms, just with different inputs. Others argue that scaling organic is a good thing because it brings healthier options to more Americans. It's a classic US story. Idealism meets capitalism, and somewhere in between, consumers are left trying to sort fact from fiction. Let S zoom out from individual households and look at where organic food shows up in public spaces across America. One of the fastest growing trends is organic food in schools. Parents across the US have pushed for healthier lunch programs. And some districts, especially in California, Colorado, and New York, have introduced organic fruits, vegetables, and even milk into cafeterias. Why? Because children are especially vulnerable to pesticide exposure. Their smaller bodies and developing organs process chemicals differently than adults. That's why some pediatric experts recommend minimizing pesticides during early development. But here's the challenge. School lunch programs run on tight budgets. Organic apples may cost nearly double conventional ones. Multiply that across thousands of students, and suddenly the costs skyrocket. Some hospitals and healthcare institutions have also jumped on board. Imagine a cancer recovery ward in Boston, where meals are prepared with organic vegetables, not just for nutrition, but to reassure patients that they're receiving the cleanest possible food during vulnerable times. Airlines, too, have tested organic menu items for health-conscious travelers. And in corporate America, big companies like Google and Apple have stocked organic options in their employee cafeterias. So, while most Americans encounter organic at the grocery store, it's also slowly weaving its way into schools, hospitals, and workplaces, subtly reshaping public health culture. Numbers tell their own story. According to the USDA, U.S. organic food sales hit over $60 billion annually in recent years, making it one of the fastest-growing food sectors. More than 80% of American households report buying organic at least occasionally. The most common organic purchases: fresh produce, dairy, and packaged foods like cereal. Interestingly, the biggest organic buyers aren't just wealthy urban elites. Sales are spread across income brackets, with middle-class suburban families forming a huge chunk of the market. One study showed that millennials and Gen Z are the most frequent buyers, but older adults, especially baby boomers, are catching up, often motivated by health concerns. What does this tell us? Organic isn't just a trend. It's a permanent fixture of the American food landscape. Let's be honest, marketing has played a massive role in shaping the organic boom. Labels with green leaves, pastoral farm images, or rustic fonts all signal purity. Commercials often show happy cows in wide fields, sunlit orchards, and smiling farmers with dirt on their hands. It's storytelling at its finest. But behind those labels, things aren't always as idyllic. Some organic farms are massive industrial operations. Chickens may technically have outdoor access, but that access might be a tiny door leading to a small patch of dirt. Still, marketing works because it connects with something emotional in us. Americans want to believe that by choosing organic, they're choosing something wholesome, something closer to nature, something safer for their families. And maybe that's the real secret of organic food. It's as much about feeling good as it is about being good. Here's a critical angle: the relationship between organic farming and climate change. Organic farming avoids synthetic fertilizers, which are major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. It also encourages practices like cover cropping and composting, which can help capture carbon in the soil. But as we mentioned earlier, organic yields are often lower. That means to feed the same number of people, we might need more farmland, potentially leading to deforestation or habitat loss. So the debate becomes, can organic scale sustainably enough to truly fight climate change? Or will we need a hybrid model that blends the best of organic with the efficiency of conventional methods? Some scientists argue that the future lies not in all organic, but in smarter agriculture, combining organic principles with cutting-edge technology. Imagine drones monitoring crop health, AI predicting soil needs, and regenerative practices restoring ecosystems. That's the future many believe is coming. Let's make this personal. Imagine you decide to go all in. For 1 month, your household switches completely to organic. No exceptions. At first, you notice the grocery bill. It's higher, but then something else happens. You start cooking more because eating out organically is tricky and expensive. You snack less on processed foods because organic versions are limited and pricey. Suddenly, your meals are more whole, more plant-based, and less junky. After a few weeks, maybe you notice subtle changes, less bloating, better digestion. Not necessarily because of the organic label itself, but because your whole pattern of eating has shifted. That's the power of intention. Sometimes the label doesn't just change the food, it changes you. We've covered the upsides, but let's not sugarcoat it. Critics have plenty to say. Some argue that the organic industry preys on fear of chemicals, fear of disease, fear of unnatural food. They say science shows pesticide residues on conventional produce are well within safe limits, so pushing organic is misleading. Others criticize the elitism of organic culture. In neighborhoods where families struggle to afford groceries at all, organic feels out of touch, a luxury for the privileged. And then there are environmentalists who argue that focusing on organic is too narrow. They say we should be tackling broader issues like food waste, carbon emissions, and overconsumption of meat. Compared to those problems, choosing organic spinach feels small. These criticisms don't erase the benefits, but they remind us to stay grounded. Organic isn't the hero or the villain. It is just one chapter in a much bigger food story. Let's fast forward 20 years. What might organic food look like in 2045 America? Will every school cafeteria serve organic meals? Will conventional farming fade away? Or will we see a new label, something beyond organic like regenerative verified or climate neutral certified? Already, tech is reshaping farming. Vertical farms in New Jersey grow pesticide-free greens indoors, using LED lights and hydroponics. Lab-grown meat is gaining traction, promising animal protein without factory farms. In that world, will organic even matter? Or will consumers demand new standards that blend health, sustainability, and technology? The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The conversation about food quality, safety, and sustainability isn't going away. If anything, it's going to get louder. Let's lay out the clear advantages, the reasons so many Americans pay extra for that USDA organic seal, lower pesticide exposure. This is the headline benefit. Parents especially feel comfort knowing their kids are consuming fewer synthetic residues. Environmental stewardship. Organic farming promotes healthier soil, cleaner waterways, and biodiversity. Supporting it often feels like voting with your dollar for the planet. Nutritional edges. While modest organic foods may contain higher levels of antioxidants and healthier fat profiles in dairy and meat, over years, those small differences may add up. Animal welfare. Organic standards require more humane conditions, like outdoor access and banning routine antibiotics. Not perfect, but a step in the right direction. Lifestyle impact. Choosing organic often nudges people toward cooking at home, eating fresher, and paying more attention to their health. Psychological reassurance. Sometimes the peace of mind alone is worth it. In a world full of uncertainty, buying organic feels like one small area of control. That's a solid list, and for many Americans, these reasons are enough. But let's balance the scale. Higher cost. Organic can be 30 to 100% more expensive. For many families, that price difference adds stress and limits overall food access. Not nutrient magic. Vitamins and minerals are often similar to conventional produce. You don't get double the health just because you paid double the price. Scale challenges. Organic farming can require more land for the same yield. That raises questions about feeding a growing global population. Myths and confusion. Many Americans mistakenly believe organic means chemical-free or guaranteed safer, which isn't always true. Accessibility gap. In food deserts, neighborhoods where grocery stores are scarce, organic is often completely out of reach. This can deepen health inequalities, corporate dilution. As big companies dominate, some argue the original spirit of organic, small-scale, sustainable farming is being watered down. So while organic has strong benefits, it also comes with very real trade-offs. Let's focus on one place where organic has truly reshaped culture: California. From Los Angeles juice bars to San Francisco farmers markets, California has been the epicenter of America's organic revolution. The state produces over 40% of U.S. organic vegetables and fruits. Entire grocery chains, like Erewhon in L.A., have built reputations on organic, wellness-focused lifestyles. But even here, contradictions exist. Wealthy neighborhoods enjoy endless organic choices, while low-income communities struggle to access fresh produce of any kind. In a single city, you can see both the promise and the challenge of organic living side by side. California proves two things. Organic can transform food culture when there's demand and infrastructure. Without addressing inequality, organic risks becoming a luxury rather than a public health tool. Now let's travel to the Midwest, say Iowa or Ohio. Here, farming is deeply woven into everyday life. Families might grow corn, soybeans, or wheat on large plots of land. For many Midwestern farmers, organic certification feels complicated, expensive, and unrealistic. But local co-ops and small farmers' markets often provide chemical-free produce without official certification. Neighbors buy from neighbors, trusting relationships more than labels. This highlights another truth. In much of America, organic isn't always about certification. It's about trust, freshness, and community ties. Meet Sarah, a working mom in New Jersey. She wants the best for her 2 kids, but her budget is tight. She starts by using the EWG's Dirty Dozen list, buying organic strawberries, apples, and spinach, but sticking with conventional bananas, avocados, and broccoli. Over time, she realizes something important. It's not about being perfectly organic, but about making better choices where she can. Her kids grow up eating plenty of produce, organic or not, and that's what really sets them up for health. Sarah's story is one many American families can relate to. It's about balance, not extremes. After all this exploration, here's the golden truth. The single most important factor in your diet isn't whether your food is organic. It's whether your diet is rich in whole foods, fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, whole grains, lean proteins, and low in ultra-processed junk. If choosing organic helps you eat more of those healthy foods, fantastic. But if cost or access gets in the way, eating conventionally grown produce is still one of the best things you can do for your health. So, what's the best path for US families? Use the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 lists to prioritize. Wash produce thoroughly, whether organic or conventional. Cook more at home, focusing on variety and freshness. Remember that balance matters more than labels. Support local farmers when possible, whether certified or not. And most importantly, let go of the guilt. Food should nourish, not stress. We've traveled from history to science, from soil health to school lunches, from myths to mindsets. We've seen how organic food can inspire, divide, empower, and confuse. So, better or hype? The answer is a bit of both. Organic food lowers pesticide exposure, supports the environment, and offers peace of mind. But it's not a miracle cure. It's not always accessible, and it's not the only path to health. The real lesson is this: whether you choose organic or not, what matters most is building a diet that's colorful, varied, and whole. Because in the end, the health of America doesn't rest on a label. It rests on habits, choices, and the love we put into every meal.